Everyone, happy Sunday. So I'm going to talk about this video that I made recently that actually more people have seen the short of it on Instagram. It's got 1.1 million views, and then the short on YouTube than actually watched the video. So the interesting thing about it is that the short and the other videos start telling a story that people, I think, really connected with from when I was 30 years old, as if nothing happened before I was 30 years old in life. That kind of led me to where I was starting this YouTube channel at 54. So I want to fill in some of the blanks. Got a couple things happening. We have a Labor Day sale that we just put up right now. That is a sale we've never done before. We're calling it the Labor Day Mega Bundle, which are all of my courses together. That's everything. I'll tell you which ones are in it. We usually will do combinations of 3 or so, but this is all of them. The Beato Book Interactive, which is my music theory course, my ear training course. You guys all know what that is. Improve your ear, learn to hear intervals, learn to hear chord progressions, learn to figure out songs instantly. My beginner guitar course, self-explanatory. These are all video courses. My Quick Lessons Pro course, which has over 5 hours where I break down solos and things like that. And then the Arpeggio Masterclass. So all of those things for $119. It's a savings of $586 if you were to buy them all separately. And that is going on until Labor Day, which is here in the United States, September 2nd at midnight. Those of you that have been like, you know what, I want to buy Rick's courses and everything, but I'm not sure if I want to buy this one or that one, whatever. This is something we've never done before, and we won't do it again. This is I won't offer it like this again. So this is your time to get it. If you've been waiting to do it, now's the time. $119. Totally worth it. Helps support the channel, but more importantly, helps you become a better musician, which leads me to what I talked about in my last video about it's never too late. Just to recap, in case you hadn't seen it, I kind of start out with at college. I auditioned for 2 colleges. I didn't get into either. Fredonia State and Ithaca College. I got rejected as a music student. I went to Fredonia State for 1 semester as a history major, and then I re-auditioned at Ithaca College, got in, and then I actually became a bass major. I left that part out of it. So I got in as a guitar major. I was actually a double major, majoring in guitar and bass, but classical bass was really my major. Graduated from there, went to New England Conservatory in Boston, got my master's degree, and then I got a job teaching back at Ithaca, where I'd gotten rejected 6 years earlier. Couldn't get into the music program. Now I was teaching in the same office that I got rejected in. Okay. Now, one of the big turning points, obviously getting rejected from school crushes your ego. I made a video about this called Fortunes of Hard Work. It's one of my first storytelling videos on my channel from 7 years ago. If you watch it, I look a lot younger. But the real thing that happened was when I was 28. This is where I took a risk. And I'll tell you why I took a risk. There was a recession, 1990 to 1991, that lasted for, I don't know, about a year or so. And I lost all my gigs beyond the teaching at Ithaca, which I was not making enough money to make ends meet. And the extra gigs I had made up for that. So I had started writing songs with a friend of mine and writing rock songs, okay? And I had never written a song before that. Never. How did I do it? Well, I took all the knowledge that I had learned. You got to think about this. So I started with guitar lessons at 15. I went through an undergrad in classical bass, a master's in jazz guitar. So I had a tremendous knowledge base of all the things that are learnable and the things that I've honestly made courses on that I'm talking about selling here, these are all the things that I learned, but these are actually the things that I learned that I use from my education, because you don't really use everything that you learn. But all those skills led me to be able to learn how to write songs. And how did I learn how to write songs? I analyzed thousands and thousands of songs. Kind of like when I taught my 12,000 guitar lessons, which I'll get to. Okay, so I'm 28. I start writing songs. And in 1992, those songs, I had probably demoed about 170 songs with one of my friends, Alan. And we had done a gig. We had a pickup band. We did a gig at CBGB's. And we got a guy named John Tita, came backstage after and says, "You guys have hit songs. Here's my card. Have your lawyer call me." And I'm thinking, what are the chances? Is this really true? I work for Polygram Publishing. And I called our lawyer at the time, and he was a real deal guy. And he was offering us a publishing deal. It was an $85,000 deal. Okay, that's how much we got. Now, our manager at the time took about half that money, and the lawyer took about pretty much the other half of it. So I think Alan and I ended up with about $5,000 a piece or something like that, maybe 10,000 out of it. And but to me, that was worth risking quitting my teaching job, which I had only 5 years in, right? To get tenure, you needed, I think, 6 or 7 years. But when I looked at the possibility, here I was 30 years old. I knew what it would look like when I was 60 or 62, like how I am now. I could still be teaching at Ithaca now and retiring. I probably would have retired at 60, but I thought to myself, this can't be my life. That can't be what I'm going to do. So I quit this job. I went and I tried to make it as a songwriter. I tried to make it in a band, tried to make it a songwriter. I spent 2 years doing that until I fell flat on my face. I was flat broke, and I moved back home with my parents. My brother Ray gave me a job at his company that he ran, helping him set up an early computer system in 1994. I saved up a few $100, and then I drove around to different cities based on a New York Times article on what cities had the best music scenes. Chicago, Chapel Hill, Nashville, Denver, London, Amsterdam. I mean, I lived in these places for 2 and 3 months at a time. And I would get in the music scene. I would audition for a bunch of bands, and I lived it. And this was the most amazing experience. I spent all of 94 doing this, traveling all through these different places, crashing with people on people's couches, driving around my Honda Civic, where I had a PV Classic 50 and a Mexican Strat, because I had lost all my gear because I had to sell it all because I was broke before that. And that was the only things that I had left. That was one of the risks that I took, and it didn't work out. I didn't get that published. I got the publishing deal, but there was no record deal. There was nothing. But I eventually ended up in Atlanta in 1994, in the end of November of 94, and I started meeting people. And it took me until 1997, so basically 2.5 years, till I met the guys in my band Billionaire, and we started our band from scratch. We did our first rehearsal on February 7th, 1997, did a gig a week later. We had 9 songs that Mark and I had written together. We got a record deal the next year, made a record, and got dropped. So here we are, 1999, record out, got dropped. I started producing bands when I was 37 years old with no knowledge of how to produce. I didn't know anything about engineering. Pro Tools had just started. One of the things that we got from the record label was I got a G3, a Mac G3, and I got a Pro Tools Digi 001. and a 57, and that was it. And that's how I learned. I got the manual and I taught myself how to do that. Well, how did I teach myself? These are the things that I left out. The knowledge base that I had from learning all this stuff that I teach in my courses. Ear training. Like, how do you know what a good snare sound is? Because I had a great ear, because I could learn songs instantly. How do you know what a great arrangement is? Because I heard, okay, as the bass part that goes here, this drums, let's say it goes to a lo-fi drum sound here in the intro, then it opens up. I mean, I could analyze songs just based on having a great ear, okay? I could also analyze songs because I knew what the song structures were. I knew what the intros were and if they had signatures, and I would learn to add these things to songs. And I taught bands how to record, how to make their songs better. You need a better melody here. These notes work better over these chords that you have. This is really the things that when I talk about, these are the important things that I learned in college. Basically, everything that I learned in college that was important are in my courses that I'm selling in my bundle all together, only through Labor Day. I'll say it one more time here. Mike just put it in there. Open up another tab. You go purchase it, come back to the stream. Now this lasted when I moved here. I mean, this included me living in Denver, working at this at the University of Denver cafeteria, bussing tables for students, carrying around one of those gray bins where people are putting their dirty plates in. I'm putting them in. I had a hairnet. I had a red, like a maroon polyester shirt that I wore, and I'm bussing tables for students. You know why? Because I needed the money. Then I moved to New York City. I got in a bunch of bands. I was in Denver for 3 months. I went to New York. I lived there for 3 or 4 months. And I worked on this boat, the Mariner 3. There was this girl, Lisa, that was in a band I said, I don't have a job. I met her through the Village Voice, along with a band called Ivy that I got in. I got in every band I auditioned for, no matter what instrument it was. I was just trying to meet as many people. This girl, Lisa's like, I said, I need a job. She's like, do you know how to bartend? And I said, no. She goes, great. Come down to the World Trade Center dock. The thing's called the Mariner 3. I'll teach you how to do it. And I worked on this thing for 3 months, going around the thing. Jimmy Buffett rented the boat out for 2 days because he was friends with the captain. And the captain taught me how to make margaritas for Jimmy Buffett. He goes, you got to learn how to make margaritas. This is really true. And when I left there after New York, I went to London. I went for 5 weeks to London and Amsterdam, and I checked out the scenes. I checked out the scenes in London. I went to up to Bristol, England, because all the bands that came out of Bristol at the time I was into. I went to Wales. And I would live these things. This was an amazing time. Like, how do you get into a scene like that? You go there and you move. And then you go out every night. When I was in Chicago, I was out every single night seeing bands, meeting people, auditioning. Whatever the local paper was in Chicago, I opened it up the first day and I looked for bands to audition for. I played in a band in Denver called Sweetwater Well. And they didn't have a bass player. I'll play bass, but they had 400 people that would show up to their shows. So after 3 weeks of being there, I knew every musician in town, and I started playing with other people. But I was like, no, I'm not feeling it here. I went to New York. I can't. I've told stories about that thing. I went to Nashville. I knew that wasn't happening. The rock scene wasn't wasn't what it is nowadays. Back then, obviously 1994. I went to Chapel Hill. I'm like, no, I can't live here in Chapel Hill, even though I loved the bands that had come out of there at the time. Then I ended up in Atlanta. I've told the story about that. But the things that made me willing to take a risk, when I moved here, I got a job at Blockbuster Music. I wore the blue polyester. I wore a lot of polyester in 1994. Blue polyester shirt. I worked that job for 3 months. At the Blockbuster on Peachtree Road. Here's Blockbuster Music, opening up CDs at the listening station for people. Elton John used to come in there. And then And I did that until I had enough guitar students. I taught at a place called Buckhead Music. And then I was teaching 50 students a week, and I taught 12,000 lessons from 1994 to 1999 through our record deal, and those 12,000 records were the basis of what makes this song great, because I learned every song you can possibly imagine. I taught him on guitar, I taught him on bass, notated them, tabbed them out. I'd never used tablature before, but that's how people learned then. So I wrote all tab because nobody could read notes. So these things, the knowledge of music, the knowledge of music theory, the knowledge of ear training, the knowledge of the fingerboard, all these kind of things that I talk about in my courses enabled me to learn things like what frequencies sound good on a bass drum, what frequencies do you dump out. So on my knee, on a knee 773, I'm dumping out 360, or on an SSL, I'm dumping out, 400 hertz. I'm dumping out the mid-range, adding a little top end, adding some sub on it, or using a U47 FET on the outside, or whatever things that the people at Tree Sound came in, the pro engineers came in and did. I copied what they did. I looked at their overhead placement. I looked at what they used on the toms. I went into places like Southern Tracks where I saw Brendan O'Brien's setup, and that's why I asked him in my interview, I started using a 421 on the top of the tom and a 57 on the bottom that was out of phase with a Y cable. I got that from Brendan just from walking into the studio, and the assistant engineer told me this stuff. But the knowledge base that I had from that, I felt like I could learn anything. Okay? So to me, it was worth taking the risk on doing these things, on trying to make it in a band. And this is really I started working as a producer full-time, had my first platinum record with Shinedown in 2002. I had other records with band Need to Breathe. I had 3 gold records. All the way until I was 51, I had this #1 song. I left this out of the video with the band Parmalee. I left it. It's not in the short. A #1 song as a songwriter. I got a second deal with EMI when I did the Shinedown record, because I had 3 co-writes on it, or 4 co-writes, I forget. I got a deal with EMI, and then EMI got bought out by Sony ATV, and I became a Sony ATV writer, which I'm actually still technically signed to Sony ATV. And then when I was 54, and then I had my #1 song at 51. 51! 51! People think, oh, what? You did it for that long? I mean, I didn't even write my first song until I was 28 in 1990, before grunge even happened. That's when I wrote my first songs. It was like, that was it, 1990. So from there to 2013, that's a long time. How many years is that? Man, that's an insane amount of time. 10 years, 13 years, 23 years later, I had my first hit. Did I make some money from the Shinedown record? Yes, I made some money from it. I made it at production money, but the co-writes on there, I got money from. But it wasn't like having a #1 song that got 586,000 plays on radio in 1 quarter, But that money was gone at the time. The money I made from that #1 song, because all the production stuff had started to dry up then, because no bands got signed anymore. After 2012, it was done. Radio was done. Rock music was done. And so were gigs. Okay? So when 2016 rolled around and I started YouTube, I was 54 with 3 kids. Layla was 3, Lennon was 7, and Dylan was 9. So I didn't even have a kid that was 10 years old when I started it. That was a huge risk doing that. I didn't know anything about cameras. I didn't know anything about video editing. I didn't know anything, but I knew about music. And I taught music. What were my first videos? How to develop your ear, how modes work. It was all music theory, all different things. Everything that I have in my courses now. I had written my Beato book back then in the late 80s, okay, that I used with my students. But this was a rebirth in learning. And what I've done since then, I've taken all these things that I taught from all those lessons and I gradually built courses. I made many ear training videos at the beginning of the channel, very primitive ones, right? Because I was filming a lot of these things with my iPhone. They didn't have good sound quality, but people recognized the content. So Aaron, who's here on the chat here, Aaron came here on an assistantship from Berkeley, and he knew how to do this stuff. And we built these ear training modules. Aaron did. We built them together, though. Here's what they should do. And these are what these courses are, right? All these different modules. Here's the concept. This is what I want to teach. And then it's like, okay, how do we implement these things? What is the theory? How do you connect the theory? How do we take the Beato book and make it interactive, put video to it, right? All these different things. The arpeggio course, the beginning guitar course, the Quick Lessons Pro, that was my way of learning how to do short form content on Instagram and on YouTube. The sale that we're having here, the Labor Day sale, where I have all of these things put together, we've never done, we're not doing it anymore. If you want to buy all of my courses, this is the time to do it. You get it for $119. Not only does it help you become a great musician and follow along with the things that I teach on here, when I'm talking about chord theory, if I'm talking about the key of C major or the parallel key of C minor, and what those chords are, and borrowed chords and secondary dominants and all these things you hear, chromatic mediant modulations. These are things that I teach in there and how to recognize them by ear. All put together, $119. There's my spiel. So these are some of the things that I left off in the video because so many people have seen the 50-second video that it seems like I started at age 30, but it's like, no, it started when my guitar teacher, Glenn, or Tom Rizzo, when I was 15, was like, okay, these are the major triads on three strings going up the B, E, and G string. Here they are on the D, G, and B string, and basically the stuff that's in my arpeggio course and learning those. And this is how I learned the neck. This is how I learned where the notes were. This is how I learned how to read. I could already read music from taking it in orchestra, learning the bass, but learning the guitar where the notes were. Once I knew where those arpeggios are, I knew where every note was on the neck. This is why I think that these things are so important. They're really so important to for people to learn. I think that it's if you can master these things, it doesn't matter what age you are, you can be successful. I really believe this thing about being successful on YouTube. Some people are like, oh, that's not true, Rick. You can't be. It's like, well, someone has to be successful. Why can't it be you? I mean, that's really that's the thing. Somebody is going to be successful at this stuff in something, right? When you look on YouTube, there's people that have successful YouTube channels. When you see Steph Curry shoot I'm watching him today. I saw a thing on Instagram where he shoots the ball. It bounces in front of the basket. It goes up and it's a bank shot. And he did it like 5 times in a row. Now, how's that possible? You know why? Because he's done it 1 billion times. Just like Edison, it took him 1,000 tries between 1878 and 1879 to develop the electric light bulb. Other people were working on it at the same time, but the filament and the vacuum seal on the light bulb, it took Now, he could have quit after 629 tries at it. He could have quit at 850 tries. He could have quit at 985 tries. But he did 1,000 of them until he mastered it. And you can learn every day. This is it's never too late to learn things. Every single day I spend the beginning of the day learning new things. I'm learning new things to help this channel, whether it's how to use this camera that I have. I have this thing called the Opal C1, I believe it's called. I always felt like my video qualities on my live streams were bad. So I go through and start looking at things. I can't use a regular camera. I could, but I can't set the thing up just because of the way the studio is set up. I can't fit a tripod behind where my desk is here. So this was the only logical place to do it. But going through and trying things out, watching videos, which one's the best one to do? Which is the best microphone to use for this? Which is the best USB microphone? The study, all this stuff. How can we improve the ear training course? How can we improve this? What are the next things we're doing? You know, all this stuff that you that go behind the scenes. How do we make our shorts better? How do you convey the most information in the shortest amount of time? Because people don't have the time to do this stuff. I found my most successful shorts are 35 seconds long. They just are. I don't know why. It doesn't mean that I make 35-second shorts. The short I just did that I was telling you about is 50 seconds long. I make them as long as they need to be, just like I make my videos as long as they need to be. But these are things, there's all this stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see. And if it wasn't for taking these risks in these couple areas, like when I was 30 years old, quitting my college teaching job, or being willing to do whatever kind of job I had to do, or moving home with my parents, whatever I had to do, I just did it. I didn't complain about it. I just did it because I had a dream that I wanted to play music, my own music in life. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to find people to play my own music. You know, and when I started this YouTube channel, I wanted to share the things that I've learned in my life with people on the internet. And I thought YouTube was the best place to do this. And when I started the channel, I'm like, I'm not going to endorse any products. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do any affiliate links. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm going to do this. I want people to say, I believe Rick, because Rick is not trying to sell. What do I sell? I sell my own courses to teach you how to become a better musician. That's it. That's it. Those are the things that I believe in. And it helps fund the channel. And it helps you become a better musician. And that ultimately is why I started the channel. And I honestly, I felt guilty being in the music business with all the bad music that happened, you know, from the 2000s on. And I wanted to do whatever I could to see if I could raise the level of, I know it's a ridiculous thing, right? It's like I start out making these simple videos on how to develop your ear and things like that. But if there was any way that I could give back to people for the great music education that I've been so fortunate to have, the amazing musicians that I've been able to meet in my life, the people then now that I've been able to have on the channel, from Sting to Tommy Emmanuel to Pat Metheny to Chris Novoselic to you name it, to Kirk Hammett, to everyone that's been on the channel. Now I'm going to feel like if I don't say everything, Matt Cameron, I need to say everybody that's been on here. Keith Urban, let's see, Dominic Miller, Steve Lukather, Matteo Mancuso, Yngve, Greg Bissonette, Joe Bonamassa, Tim Henson, Billy Corrigan, Peter Frampton, Eric Johnson, Andy Summers, Mahini Dave, Bitch Vig, Derek Trucks, Stuart Copeland, Micah McDonald, Maynard, James Keenan, Mateus Asado, Brian May, Daniel Lanois, Tim Pierce, Danny Carey, John Petrucci, Tosin Abasi, Brendan O'Brien, Mike Dawes, and George Benson, and Kiko Lorero, and Christopher Cross, Michael Amarty, and Al Di Miola, Bernard Purdy, Robert DeLeo, Keith Jarrett, Josh Fries, Paul Gilbert, the guys in Pantera, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Adrian Ballou, Tony Levin, Marty Friedman, Larry Carlton, Steve Morris, Julian Lage, Nathaniel Murphy, Steve Gadd, Bjorn Olveus, John Schofield, John Anderson, Brad Meldau, Mike Mills, Michael Beinhorn, Frank Gambale, Miles Kennedy, Pliny. That's not even all of them. Dweezil. I've had Dweezil on. Matter of fact, I might have Dweezil on again. Larry Carlton. Did I say Larry? Dean Parks. Jay Graydon. Ed Rowland. Wow. Dirty Loops. Everyone that I forgot, I'm sorry. I was just going down this quick list. Aiden Essen, Alan Parsons, Joni. This is like, it's been unbelievable, right? You guys are amazing. I'm going to say it one more time. Labor Day sale, big thing. Never been done on my channel before. All my educational products, a mega bundle, $119. It normally would be $586. $119. I don't mean to say this to no disrespect to any other YouTuber, but most YouTubers, music YouTubers, whatever, their courses, one course costs a lot more than that. Okay, I'm selling my Beato book, interactive, ear training course, beginner guitar course, quick lessons pro guitar course, arpeggio masterclass, all 5 of those courses for $119. You guys are amazing. Go back and watch the video if you missed the beginning of it. I think this is kind of important. Tells more of my story, more of the background, the things that I kind of left out, and those and the for the people that saw the short and didn't see the rest of the thing. Anyways, you guys are incredible. Have a great rest of your weekend. It's an honor as always. We'll see you guys. Take care.